Hello, this is Isaac, and in this short tutorial I would like to show you how to make your own data table component with Vue.js. I'm going to use Laravel as the backend, but you can use whatever backend you want. It's just the same concept. In the past I would use this library, the jQuery Datatables. It's a very good library, but it's quite heavy. It relies on jQuery, and I believe we can do better than that. And with Vue we definitely can. Not to say that this is not a good library, but just the way it's written, it's kind of in an old-fashioned way. And believe it or not, Vue makes it extremely easy to do it by yourself. I'm going to show you how to make a data table component without even one interaction with a DOM. No selectors, no nothing. All we're going to do is write a little bit of HTML, and we're going to play with some arrays and objects. But that's it pretty much. So let's begin. I prepared some boilerplate, okay. I also seeded a project table. These are the columns, have 400 rows, okay. So we're going to have a project component. This will basically load the table, and we're going to have a data table component. Again, currently it's empty. We're going to have also a pagination component, because obviously we need to paginate the results, otherwise it's going to be useless. And so here's the welcome page. That's the project component that I'm loading, and here I'm registering the project component globally. And this is it pretty much. And let's begin. So in this example, I'm going to show you server-side rendering of the table. If I'll have time, I'll make another video to show you client-side rendering. The difference is that client-side rendering basically means that you're going to get all the results up front and that's it. So you're going to make one call to your database, get all the data for the table. All the rest is going to be taken care in the client side by JavaScript. So if you need to do some kind of sorting, filtering, you're going to do it by JavaScript. Now, the advantage of using that method is that it's going to be faster, because you only make one call to your server and that's it. The rest is going to be handled client side. But the downside is that if you have a lot of data, then your browser can crash because it's going to go out of memory. So it's good for a few thousands of rows, right? A few thousands of values in your array. Once you go beyond that, it's going to cause you issues, right? You're going to go out of memory. So it's not a scalable solution. Server-side means that what I want is what I get. So if I want 100 rows, I'm just going to get 100 rows from the server, and we're going to use pagination. If I want to get another 100, I click the next page and get another 100. If I do sorting, filtering, I have to make a call to the server each time. So the server will do the heavy lifting. Now it's going to be a bit slower because you have to make the call to the server, but it's going to be much more scalable. Even if you have a million rows, it doesn't matter, because you're not loading all these millions up front. You're going to use pagination for it, okay? So first, what we need. We have a data table component. Now this component will basically handle the table head. The table head will have a column name, and we'll probably need to show sorting icon, right? Whether it's ascending or descending, or both. And that's pretty much it. Of course, that's pretty much it. So what exactly do we expect to get from the parent component, right? So we want to get some props. So we mentioned we want to have the column name. So we're probably going to want to have a columns array. That's going to be an array of objects that will hold the column name. The column width would also be a good option to have. And we mentioned sorting. So I want to have a sort key, right? Which column we're currently sorting. What's the name of that column, right? That's going to be the sort key. And then want to know, we're also going to have an object with the sort orders or sort directions, right? So each column has some kind of a sort direction, whether it's descending or ascending, right? So these are the props that we're going to accept from the parent component, okay? Now we need to just pass the HTML part, and I'm just gonna paste it, and let's go over it. So I'm using Bulma for styling. So yeah, these are just the classes for it. So like I said, we're only gonna handle the table head. So we're gonna have the table head and we're gonna loop over the columns that we're going to get. The key is going to be the column name, so it must be unique. And on click, we're going to emit a sort event with the column.name. So if the user clicks on it, we know he wants to sort that specific column. Now, we are assuming that all columns are going to be sortable. But in reality, some of them might not be. But I didn't want to get too much into detail. But you can easily just make v-if column.sortable, for example, orderable, for example. If not, then just don't show it. Okay, so yeah, that's very easy to do. And we're going to just make a class. So we're going to check, is the sort key the column name? If it is, we're gonna check what's that order of that column, right? If it's gonna be 1, that means it's going to be ascending. If it's gonna be -1, it's going to be descending. And if it's not, then just nothing. Okay, so very simple. The style will also, like I said, we're gonna get the width of the column, and we're gonna also add a pointer for the sorting. And then we're gonna have the column label, right? So, because the column name and the label, they don't have to be the same, right? The column label can be capitalized whatsoever. And then the slot. The slot is just a placeholder. Here it's gonna be the table body, most likely. Not most likely, it's gonna be the table body. And that's it. This is the whole simplified, but still has a lot of great coverage here. The data table component, right? Very easy. So all we're doing is just getting a couple of props, listening to a click event, and then emitting a sort event with the column name to let the parent component know we need to sort something. And then we're gonna make a class, a sorting class, based on whether the column name is the sort key or not. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so this is it. Now let's see, what do we need for the pagination? Pagination is simple. All we need is a pagination object. That pagination object will probably hold the next page, the previous page, total pages, and so on and so on. So I'm just gonna also paste here some code. These are some styling. So let's go over it. Again, these are Bulma styling here. So we want to get the, it's going to be a next previous pagination, okay? Just 2 buttons, next or previous. So we're going to show here pagination from, pagination to, and so here if we're clicking, this is the previous page. If we're clicking on it, we're going to emit a previous event, prev event. And this is the same thing for the next. Very simple here. Like if you know Vue, it's going to be very simple for you. And even if you don't, just follow the documentation and it's going to be easy. All we're doing here is just listening to a click event and emitting a previous event. And we accept the pagination object. This one we will get from Laravel. It's going to be very easy. Like I said, we're doing server-side rendering here, so the pagination will be calculated on the server, okay, for us. So these are pretty much the 2 completed components. Okay, so now we need to use them. So what do we need now? We need to prepare all the variables, all the props for the data table component. So let's begin. So we will have here the data object. And before we even define any variables here, we're gonna paste this one. So these are the sort orders or sort directions, you can call them. Okay, we're gonna pass it to the data table component. These are the columns that we will pass. So we're mentioning the width, the label, and the name of it. Okay, very simple. This is all we're gonna show, a table of 3 columns. And then we're gonna loop over the columns, and we're gonna prepare the sort orders object. Now by default, all of them is gonna be -1, so they're gonna be descending. Okay, that's just the default. Now let me just paste in the data and we'll go over it. Okay, so this is a project component, so obviously we need to initialize a project attribute. It's going to be an empty array for now. The columns is just going to be these columns. sort key is going to be deadline. Okay, this is going to be the initial sorted key. Sort orders, like I said. Table data, this is what we were going to send to the server. Okay, I'm going to talk about that draw later. We're going to send the length, how many rows we want. Search, this is going to use this, we're going to use it for filtering. The column index that is being sorted and the direction. Okay, so for the server, we're just going to pass the index. We're not going to pass the name and the direction. So it's going to be column 0, which means it's going to be deadline. And this is the pagination object that we need to configure, but this is the whole data that it's going to hold. So like I said, it's very simple, last page, current page, so on and so on. And so here we're going to have methods now. We need to prepare some methods. First, we want to configure the pagination. We're going to get the data. And we're going to configure the pagination. It's very simple, just a bunch of assignments. Okay, we're going to get this back from the server. Okay, and we need to get the projects. So the URL is going to be projects and route resource projects. It's going to hit the project controller. And what are we going to do here is we're going to increment the draw variable, then send we're going to use Axios here for making Ajax calls, send the whole table data. We're going to get the response. And the server will need to return this draw variable. Okay, we're going to send it to the server and it needs to return the exact value. And if it's equal to the current draw, then we're going to assign the project the data, and then we're going to configure the pagination. Now let me talk about this draw, what it's doing here. Okay, Ajax calls are asynchronous by default. So here I'm going to allow the user to filter for the table, to type some things and filter for the table. Now if he types very fast, now the browser can open up to 5 or 6 connections. So it will send concurrently 5-6 Ajax calls if the user typed fast enough. Now, since they are being sent asynchronously, I cannot guarantee that the response from the server will be in sync, right? It can go out of sync. I can find the latest response can be an old Ajax call, which is not good for us. So what I'm going to do here for every Ajax call, okay, that I'm sending here, I'm going to increment this draw. And I'm going to get back the same value from the server. Now, if it's equal, I know that the latest response that I got is from the newest Ajax call that I sent, so it's fine. But if it's not, then I know that it's outdated. So there's a possibility that I'm going to send one Ajax call and then another Ajax call. They will be sent concurrently from the browser. But the server, it took him a bit time, so it actually sent me back first the response for the new Ajax call, and then it sent me back the response of the old Ajax call, but it's outdated now. So put it simply, this will help us prevent outdated responses, right? So we're going to make sure we're going to keep everything in sync. If we have something outdated, that's fine, we're going to ignore it. Okay, hope this didn't confuse you. So this is the configure pagination. This is here how we're getting the projects. And to get the projects, we're going to use lifecycle event. So we're going to use it in created. That's the perfect place to make an Ajax call. So this.get projects. Let's see if we're getting any kind of error. So open the Vue DevTools, projects. And we're getting the projects, array of 10. Okay. Let's take a look at the server and see what we're getting back from Laravel here. So here, this is the project controller. It's a simple index method. So I created an array, columns array. This is the data that I'm getting. Like I said, the length, the column, the direction, whether there's some kind of a search input. And Laravel has a great ORM. I really like it. So I'm making a query here. So get me all the projects, select these columns, And then order by column direction. So this column is the index. Like I said, we're sending the index. So it's going to be 0. So in this case, it's going to be deadline. Direction is going to be descending. Okay, because this is the initial, right? Column is 0 and descending. So we have to make sure that the order of this, it's going to be the same as this. If they're not in the same order, that's going to cause confusion. Then we're going to make sure, we're going to check if there's a search value. If it's empty, we're not going to do anything. If it's not empty, we're going to append another search query to this variable, to this object. So query where, budget like, status like, yeah. Deadline is a date, so it doesn't make sense to search a date with a like query. And then we're simply going to paginate, and we're going to pass in the length. That's all we need to do. Just pass in the length. It's that easy. And then we're going to return the data, projects, and draw. All right. So like I said, we were just returning what we got. Okay, that's exactly it. Okay. And let's refresh. There's no errors. So now let's write the data table component. Data table. So we need to pass the columns. We will need to pass again the sort key. And the sort orders, I'm gonna use these columns. Let's refresh, see if we're getting any kind of error. No error. And you see this? This is just CSS styling. Again, I'm not gonna go over the styling. But deadline, and it's descending. Okay, that's why we have this direction. Now we mentioned that we have the slot. Okay, so whatever I'm gonna put in between here, it's going to be in the slot, right? Whatever I'm gonna put in between here. Okay, so let me just paste some code. Basic table body, I'm gonna v-for on the project. The key is gonna be project ID. That's it, just rendering the table. And here it is. See how easy it is? And if I'm gonna pass 20, okay, it's 20. 10, 10. Alrighty then. Now we need to handle sorting. So remember, when we're going to click, it's going to emit a sort event. So how do we listen to events that are being emitted by children? Well, that's it. And let's make a method that's called sort by. So let me paste this method as well. I'm gonna put it here below. This getIndex is just a helper method that I created. So whenever the user clicks on the table head, it's going to emit a sort event with the column name. So it's basically going to call this method sort by, and it will pass it the column name, which is this one. So I'm setting the sort key, and I'm setting the sort orders of that key to be the opposite of what it is. So if it's 1, it's going to be -1. If it's -1, it's going to be 1. Now this part does not concern the server side. It only concerns this component, right? The sort orders, so it will know which class to show. Okay. The data is reactive, so anytime I change this, it will be reflected here. Okay. Now the table data does concern the server side, so because we're going to pass it to the server. So here we're going to pass the column, we're going to get the index of the column name, right? And because we're only passing the index and the direction. So we're going to check if it's 1, it's going to be ascending. If it's -1, it's going to be descending. And then we just get the project. So every time we get the project, it will pass the table data. So that's why we need to update it first before we call the get project. So let's save this. And let's take it for a spin. If I click here, see March, right? Ascending, descending. Let's do it with the amounts. right? Ascending, descending. You see, now it's bigger. Let's do it with the status. Approved, right? Waiting for approval. It's working. Let's do the network here. If I click, this is the response that I'm getting back. And let's take a look at our data, sort data, table data. So you see this draw? Every time it's going to get updated. Column 0. Let's do budget. Column is going to be 1. Descending, draw is 10. Length is 10. Right, that's perfect. First of all, you see how easy this is, right? Now what we're done, we're not done yet. We need to handle the pagination. Oh no, actually we handled the pagination, so I just need to pass it. Pagination. Pagination. Save this. Yeah, 1 to 10 of 400. All right, but so let's see. So as I said, we're emitting event here as well. So we're going to emit a prev event. We're going to emit a next event. So clearly we need to listen to this. Let me just paste this as well. So on prev event, we're basically going to get a project and we're going to pass it the previous page URL and then the next page URL. Okay, we're getting this back from Laravel and we're configuring it here, right? It's all here. Let's open the Vue DevTools again, just to prove it to you. And this is the pagination object. Okay, so we have here the last page URL and the next page URL. So if I click here next, this should work hopefully. 11 to 20, 400. See? It's changing. Next page URL, page 4, page 5. Page 6. Now currently we're in the page 5, so this is by 6. 5 is the current one, so 4 is the previous one. So now it's going to be 3. Beautiful. Very easy. So we have this behind us. Now what do we need to do here? Let's add some filtering, right? We have some search and we have length that we need to handle. So that's going to be easy enough as well. Just going to paste it right here. All I have here is a simple input event. It's going to vmodel to the table data.search. On input, get project, that's all. Get project, it will pick it up. It will pick it up because every time I'm sending a get project call, I'm passing this table data, okay? Same thing for the select, right? So we want to change the length of the table. Vmodel, table data.length. You change something, get projects. It will pick up the values, no problem. Let's save this. Okay, let's check it. Close this. Make it 20. 20. Make it 30. 30. Praise. See, it's working. Make it back to 10. It's too much. Let's type something. Let's type progress. See, oh, see, it's working. Nothing. Let's type this amount. You see? Working again. How easy is this? Right? And this is, well, this is only just the server-side rendering, but that's the most scalable solution. So frankly, you can just stay with that if you want to, right? Let the server do the work. But look how little code we had to do here. Okay, now, like I said before, you can pass here now because the reason we're passing here an array of objects so we can also configure things. So I can pass here orderable false, for example, if I don't want him to order by deadline. And then I can just check it here. Is this orderable or not? And I can pass here many things here. Okay, so I mean, it's just very easy. There's really no need to use a library when it's so easy to use here. Look, I covered everything here, sorting everything, searching. You want to add more filtering? No problem. Just pass it to the table data, handle it in the controller. If you're using Laravel, if you're using something else, that's fine. Just don't forget about this draw part, okay? Like I said, and let me see if I can just prove it to you how it's going to work. So else, yeah, let me, out of sync. Let's see if it's going to work. So I send an AJAX call, I get the response, send an AJAX call, I get the response in order because I'm not sending them fast. But if I'm gonna send them fast, you see, 10 calls were out of sync because they are asynchronous call, and I cannot guarantee that the response will be in the same order that we sent the calls, okay? It's that simple. So that's why we have to use this draw variable. That's just one technique to solve this. There are other techniques, but this is the easiest one in my opinion. And hopefully you learned something, okay? And like I said, if I have time, I'm gonna make another video to show you the client-side rendering part. So have a great day.